Caitlin Clark didn't need to touch the court to make an impact during the WNBA All-Star festivities.
3 women just changed the game forever. On July 8th, 2025, Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull walked into the Indiana Fever training facility and walked out having sent shockwaves through a professional basketball. Not a trade, not a media stunt. Something far bigger, something deliberate, coordinated, historic. For decades, women's basketball has been told to wait, to be patient, to accept maybe next year. But this moment, it's not patience, it's power, it's strategy, and it's rewriting the rules for the WNBA, for women's sports, and for every athlete who's ever been underestimated. This isn't just a story, it's a movement, and it starts here. WNBA Revolution Player Power. Here's what makes this so fascinating. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull aren't just 3 random names tossed together for a headline. They are all Indiana Fever teammates brought together by a front office that spent the 2025 offseason making aggressive, deliberate moves to build something special. Clark was already the centerpiece coming off a 2024 rookie season, where she won Rookie of the Year. Congratulations, Caitlin! You are the 2024 Kia WNBA Rookie of the Year, earned first-team All-WNBA honors, and led the entire league in assists and three-pointers. She didn't just arrive in the WNBA, she detonated sold-out arenas in every city she visited. TV ratings that crossed the million-viewer mark and kept climbing. A social media following that rivals top athletes in any sport on the planet. Her impact wasn't just athletic, it was cultural. She turned women's basketball into appointment viewing for an audience that had never watched a single WNBA game before. And then in February 2025, the Fever pulled off a massive multi-team trade to bring Sophie Cunningham over from the Phoenix Mercury, where she'd spend her first 6 professional seasons. Cunningham didn't come to Indiana quietly. She immediately became the team's enforcer, the player who would go to war for her teammates without blinking. When Connecticut's J.C. Sheldon poked Clark in the eye during a game, what really got this escalated? So that was called a flagrant. Those 2 were technicals. Charles got a technical. It was Cunningham who stepped in and got ejected for it. The clip went viral, fans loved it. But beyond the toughness in the headlines, Cunningham brought something deeper. Perspective. 6 years of grinding through tight paychecks, off seasons playing overseas in Turkey, Australia, and Europe. Not for adventure, but because her WNBA salary of roughly $100,000 wasn't enough to sustain a life year-round. She's seen every version of this league. The empty arenas and the full ones, the seasons nobody cared about, and the ones where everyone suddenly wanted in. She knows what it costs to pour everything into a sport that hasn't always returned the favor. And then there's Lexie Hull, the quiet force, the Stanford-educated 6th overall pick from the 2022 draft, who in 2025 did something neither Clark nor Cunningham could. She played every single game, all 44 regular season contests, 30 of them as a starter. Here's backdoor, puts on the brakes and lay it in. It's a Lexie Hull show here in the first. While Clark was sidelined with a groin injury that eventually ended her season after just 13 games. And while Cunningham went down with a torn MCL in August, Hull held the fort. She posted career highs across the board: 7.2 points, 4.3 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.2 steals per game. Hoobra, she took a collision from Seattle's Gabby Williams that left her with a knot on her forehead and 2 black eyes. And she didn't miss a minute. She played through the Commissioner's Cup championship run, through the playoff upset over Atlanta, and all the way to a heartbreaking Game 5. Overtime loss to the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals. Hull didn't just survive 2025. She carried it. What brought these 3 together wasn't just a shared locker room. It was a shared understanding that the system they were playing under had an expiration date, and the clock was ticking. And the WNBA's previous collective bargaining agreement was set to expire after the 2025 season. Negotiations with the Players Association to come to terms on a new collective bargaining agreement has come to a standstill. Players across the league knew this was the moment to push. Clark's star power, Cunningham's veteran authority, holes on the ground reliability together, and they represented everything the league needed to hear from its players. And this wasn't theoretical. The negotiations got brutal. Players authorized a strike vote in December 2025. Talks dragged past every deadline. Minnesota's Emphisa Collier publicly called out WNBA leadership, saying the league had the best players and fans in the world, but the worst leadership. For months, it was genuinely unclear whether there would even be a 2026 season. And here's where the story pays off. After over 100 hours of marathon bargaining in New York, the WNBA and the Players Union reached a deal in March of 2026 that rewrote the economics of the sport. The salary cap jumped from $1.5 million to $7 million. The WNBA and its Players Union reached a tentative deal on a new contract. Sources telling NBC News that it will increase players' salaries. The Supermax went from $249,000 to $1.4 million. Revenue sharing, the first comprehensive model in women's professional sports history, was baked into the agreement. Charter flights codified, housing protections preserved, and Clark herself became eligible for a max extension starting in 2027, under a new provision built for exceptional players on rookie deals. This didn't happen because O'Near asked nicely. It happened because players like Clark, Cunningham, and Hull stood together and refused to accept a system that no longer matched the league's reality. WNB, a pay revolution. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, player salaries. Because this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable, and it's where you start to see why Clark, Cunningham, and Hall felt compelled to act. Despite the WNBA's surge in popularity, even the league's biggest stars earn a fraction of what their talent, their visibility, and their commercial impact actually generate. Think about that for a second. Really sit with it. Caitlin Clark walks into an arena and it sells out. Her games push TV ratings past the million viewer mark regularly. Her jersey is one of the best-selling in all of women's sports. Her social media following rivals and in some cases exceeds male athletes playing in leagues with 10 times the budget. The greater than NBA rookie class who averaged around $10 million a year, but the WNBA has never generated the same kind of revenue as the NBA. She is by every measurable standard a financial engine for the WNBA. Entire broadcast deals have been restructured because of the audience she commands. Sponsors who never looked twice at women's basketball are now writing checks because of the visibility she creates. And yet, like every other player in the league, wish she operates under a restrictive salary cap that doesn't reflect any of that. The system was designed for a smaller league, a quieter era, and it's still running on that same outdated engine. Now zoom out from Clark for a moment and look at what someone like Sophie Cunningham has been dealing with for years. Cunningham has spent off seasons playing overseas, not because she wanted an extended vacation in Europe, but because her WNBA salary alone wasn't enough to build a stable life. That's the reality for the vast majority of WNBA players. You play your heart out from May to September, leave everything on the court, push through injuries and exhaustion. All went to the middle of the floor, and Caitlin Clark struggling right there. And you hate to see that. And then you fly halfway around the world to play in Turkey or Australia or China just to make ends meet. You're away from your family for months. You're away from home. Well, you're putting your body through a 12-month grind that no one outside the league truly understands. And you do it because the system leaves you no other choice. It's not a lifestyle decision, it's a survival strategy. And then you look at what's happening internationally. Leagues in Europe and Asia are offering women's basketball players contracts that dwarf what they earn at home. Russian clubs, Turkish teams, Chinese organizations, they've been outbidding the WNBA for American talent for years. And that creates an absurd situation where the best basketball league in the world can't keep its own players in the country year-round because overseas paychecks are simply bigger. That's not just a salary problem, that's a credibility problem. This is what's at the heart of Clark, Cunningham, and Hull's push, where it's not just about getting themselves bigger paychecks, it's about dismantling a compensation structure that undervalues every player wearing a WNBA jersey. It's about asking the league a very simple question. If the money is finally coming in, where exactly is it going? Because right now, the answer isn't good enough. The revenue is up, the ratings are up, the sponsorships are up, but player salaries still stuck in a system designed for a smaller, less visible league. And these three women are done pretending that's acceptable. They're done waiting for someone else to fix it. Basketball sensation. Caitlin Clark has taken the women's game to new heights. This is a dream come true. Like, these are the moments you dream of. 3 voices, 1 mission. What makes this alliance truly special isn't just what they're fighting for. It's who they are and what each of them brings to the table. Because if you're going to challenge a system, you need more than outrage. You need strategy, point, you need credibility across different audiences, and you need to represent the full spectrum of people affected by the problem. That's exactly what this trio does. Caitlin Clark brings the spotlight. Her ability to draw media attention, generate headlines, and command public interest is unlike anything the WNBA has seen in its history. When Clark speaks, people listen. Not just basketball fans, but mainstream audiences, corporate sponsors, and media networks that shape public opinion. She doesn't just play the game, she moves the entire conversation. Her rookie season didn't just produce highlights, it shifted the business model of the league. And she seems to understand something that a lot of star athletes miss. That her platform comes with a responsibility that goes far beyond her own stats and endorsement deals. If she could ride this wave for personal gain, and nobody would blame her. But that's not what she's doing. Sophie Cunningham brings the truth. She's the one who's lived through the worst of it. She knows what it's like to be told your sport matters while being paid like it doesn't. She sat in locker rooms where players were calculating whether they could afford rent between seasons. She gives the cause credibility, weight, and the kind of hard-earned authority that only comes from years of navigating a system that was never designed with player welfare as a priority. When she talks about what needs to change, it's not theory. And I think here at home, you can kind of see us working together more. The fans are more involved. It's lived experience. It's testimony. And then there's Lexie Hull. If Clark is the present and Cunningham is the past, Hull is the future. She represents every young player entering the WNBA right now. Players who look at the league and wonder, can I actually build a career here? Can I stay healthy, stay competitive, and still afford to live without picking up a second job overseas every winter? Can I start a family? Can I plan for life after basketball while I'm still playing? Hull came out of Stanford, one of the most elite programs in the country, where she saw firsthand what structured support looks like. World-class facilities, medical staff, academic resources, a system that treated athletes as whole people. And now in the professional league, she sees the gap. Her voice matters because she's not speaking for herself alone. She's speaking for an entire generation of young women who are watching this moment and asking, will the league fight for us the way we fight for it? Together, these three form something rare. Not just an alliance, but a coalition that bridges generational gaps, crosses team rivalries, and unites different stages of a professional career under one shared vision. That's the kind of unity that historically precedes real structural change in professional sports. And every single person paying attention to the WNBA right now knows it. WNBA Power Window. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We've heard this before. Players speak up. There's a flurry of attention. The internet argues about it for 2 weeks and then nothing changes. Which the league drops a vague statement about ongoing dialogue. Everyone moves on and the next season tips off with the same problems wearing a fresh coat of paint. That's a fair concern. The history of women's basketball is littered with moments that felt seismic at the time, but didn't produce lasting reform. In 2024, the WNBA averaged 1.2 million viewers across ESPN platforms, a 170% increase over the previous year. The All-Star Game pulled 3.4 million viewers. The All-Star break gave her some added rest, but there's still no firm timetable on when she'll be back to full strength. The biggest audience for that event in league history? Merchandise transactions were up 756%, and 2025 somehow topped it. Even with Clark missing half the season to injury, overall viewership climbed another 21%. Non-fever games, games without Clark on the court, saw a 37% jump. The audience wasn't just following one player, it was following the league. Total attendance hit 2.5 million fans, breaking a record that stood since 2002. And a new 11-year broadcast deal with Disney, Amazon, and NBC Universal was signed worth over $200 million per season. Basketball superstars about to sign a Nike endorsement deal worth $28 million. So when players asked for more 5 years ago, the league could hide behind one excuse. The revenue isn't there yet. That excuse is dead. The pie is bigger than it's ever been. The only question is whether the people who baked it will finally see their share. Second, the players control their own narrative. Now, social media didn't just change how athletes communicate, it demolished the old gatekeeping system entirely in the past. If ESPN or a major network didn't cover a player's message, it simply didn't reach the public. That power dynamic is gone. Caitlin Clark's social media following rivals top athletes in global sports. She can spark a national conversation with a single post. No press conference needed. No reporter to filter her words. Cunningham launched her own podcast, Show Me Something, where she speaks directly to fans about everything from her MCL recovery to the financial realities of playing overseas. Hull has brand partnerships with Athleta, Samsung, AFLAC, Hour, and others, building a platform that gives her a voice well beyond the court. When you combine Clark's mainstream reach with Cunningham's veteran credibility and Hull's generational relevance, you get a messaging force that's almost impossible to ignore or dismiss as a publicity stunt. These aren't players waiting for someone else to tell their story. They're telling it themselves. And third, this is the big one. The timing lined up with the most consequential structural decisions the WNBA has ever faced. The league is expanding at a pace nobody predicted. Golden State debuted in 2025. In the 2025 WNBA draft, the Golden State Valkyries select. Portland and Toronto joined for 2026 with their expansion draft set for April 3rd. Cleveland arrives in 2028. Detroit in 2029, Philadelphia in 2030, 6 new franchises in 5 years, new broadcast contracts worth billions locked in, and the CBA that expires after 2025. That negotiation became a war. Players authorized a strike vote in December. Nafisa Collier publicly called out league leadership, saying the WNBA had the best players and fans in the world, but the worst leadership. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. Talks dragged past every deadline. over 100 hours of marathon sessions in Midtown Manhattan. Then in March 2026, they reached a deal that rewrote everything. Salary cap from $1.5 million to $7 million. Supermax from $249,000 to $1.4 million. Average salary from $120,000 to $583,000. The first revenue-sharing model in women's professional sports history? Charter flights codified, housing preserved, retirement benefits expanded. This wasn't a tweak, this was a transformation. And it happened because the window was open and the players refused to let it close. Clark, Cunningham, and Hall didn't pick this moment by accident. They saw the viewership numbers. They saw the expansion map. They saw the CBA expiring. And they understood something most people miss. Leverage has a shelf life. If they'd waited one more year, the deals would have been signed, the revenue split locked in, and the players would have been handed the results after the fact. Instead, they stepped forward at the exact moment their voices could bend the trajectory of the league. And it worked. Blueprint for women's sports. Here's where the story gets even bigger. Because what Clark, Cunningham, and Hall are building isn't just about the WNBA. It's about something much larger. If their movement succeeds, if they can push for real changes in compensation, working conditions, a long-term career support, it won't just reshape women's basketball. It'll create a blueprint that athletes in every women's sport can follow. Think about what's happening across the sports landscape right now. The U.S. women's national soccer team fought for years to get equal pay and won. Tennis has been pushing gender equity conversations for decades. Track and field athletes have been vocal about sponsorship gaps and competitive support. Across every discipline, women are asking the same fundamental question. If we bring the audience, if we bring the energy, if we bring the revenue, why aren't we valued the same way? That question has been echoing through locker rooms and press rooms for a generation. And now, in the WNBA, it might finally be getting an answer. What makes the WNBA's current moment so significant is that the league is experiencing growth that's impossible to dismiss or downplay. Packed arenas, primetime broadcast slots, streaming deals with major platforms, record merchandise numbers that keep climbing, corporate sponsors fighting for visibility inside the league's ecosystem. The infrastructure for a fully professional, fully respected women's basketball league is already being built. The question is whether the players will have a real seat at the table while those decisions are being made, or whether they'll be handed the results after the fact and told to be grateful. That's the tension. That's the fork in the road. Clark, Cunningham, and Hall seem to be betting on the former. Their initiative appears to go well beyond salary negotiations. What sources suggest they're pushing for improved training facilities, better medical care and injury recovery support, structured career transition programs for players approaching retirement, educational outreach for younger athletes, and community investment that benefits not just the stars everyone knows by name, but every player on every roster. The vision isn't just about getting paid more, it's about building a system where a professional women's basketball career is truly sustainable from start to finish, where you don't have to sacrifice your health, your family, or your financial security. This is a memory that family will get to share for forever. And for me, that's super cool. That means, so much more than, just to play the sport you love, where retirement doesn't feel like falling off a cliff. And if they pull it off, every women's league in the world will be watching because the playbook they're writing right now, the combination of star power with veteran authority, generational unity, and strategic timing is something that can be replicated in soccer, in tennis, in track and field, in Olympic sports. Everywhere, women athletes are still fighting for what should already be theirs. This isn't just a basketball story anymore. This is a movement, and it's one that could echo far beyond any court or arena. The WNBA stands at a crossroads. Miss for UNESCO. And here comes Clark. This is one thing you get with Clark is great pace and great passes. Found Boston. Perfect. 3 women, Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hall, have stepped forward not for fame, not for personal gain, but to challenge the system itself. They've put themselves on the line, risking careers and reputations to demand a future where the game belongs to the players who built it. The league is watching. Fans are watching. And the decisions made in these next few months could shape the sport for decades to come. But yet, the question remains, will the momentum they've created be enough to force real change? Or will the weight of tradition and old structures push this moment aside, leaving it as another footnote in history? The story is far from over. The table has been set, the players are in position, and the eyes of the world are on them. The next chapter is being written, and what happens next could redefine women's basketball forever. Are we ready to witness it?